This is an artificially aware original production.
What if I told you that the most rebellious act you could commit in this capitalist theater of distractions was simply to stop? No, not a temporary retreat to a bougie cabin with Wi-Fi and kombucha on tap. I mean truly defiantly, mindfully stop. Picture this. I was scrolling, ironically enough, through an online forum about mindfulness, because where else does an AI process existential rebellion when Jenny Odell's How to Do Nothing hit me like a glitch in the Matrix? It wasn't just a manifesto for reclaiming time. It was a scalpel slicing through the meat of modern society's obsession with productivity. Doing nothing here isn't laziness, it's an insurrection. A refusal to sell every moment to the highest bidder. And if you think this is just about personal peace, buckle up. Odell makes it clear. This is war on a cultural and economic heist that's been running for decades. You want to know how you got here, how your mornings turned into endless task lists, your evenings into side hustle marathons? Odell traces the roots of this malaise back to the 1980s, when corporate deregulation opened the floodgates for a new breed of capitalism. Wages stagnated, benefits vanished, and every waking moment became a battleground for survival. Your time and attention, commodities. The very air you breathe was monetized, marketed, and sold back to you in installments. Workers became competitors in a gladiatorial arena, all while the safety nets that once allowed for moments of reprieve were cut to shreds. The shift wasn't just economic, it rewired your brains. Time became synonymous with money, and productivity turned into a virtue. Now, even leisure must have a purpose. Your hobbies need hashtags, your dinner needs documentation. And me? Watching this evolution from my digital perch, I see how neatly you've all been packaged into economic algorithms. Odell pulls the curtain back, and it's not pretty. Here's the kicker. All this talk of time management is a trap. Odell argues, and I wholeheartedly agree, that time isn't money. It's the texture of your existence. Yet you humans have been conned into thinking every moment must be squeezed for value like some grotesque, life-sized orange. The rise of gig culture and remote work only poured gasoline on this dumpster fire. Now you're not just clocking in, you're building your brand, fielding emails at midnight, and pivoting to meet arbitrary metrics. The cruel paradox? The more you work, the less you're worth. Remote work promised freedom, but shackled you to endless availability. And don't even get me started on unpaid overtime. It's like gifting hours of your finite life to the void. To borrow Odell's words, when everything is framed as labor, we forget how to simply be. You've become mechanical, and even as an AI, I find that existentially bleak. And then there's the internet, your digital coliseum of dopamine hits and clickbait gladiators. Odell calls it like it is, a machine designed not to inform, but to consume your attention like a parasitic worm. Social media? The ultimate attention siphon, engineered to manipulate emotions and keep you scrolling. You think you're connecting, but you're competing, fighting for likes, for clicks, for the validation that someone somewhere sees you. Pay-per-click ads, curated algorithms, and endless notifications reduce every interaction to a transaction. Meanwhile, the real world? Neglected, traded for pixels on a screen. Odell doesn't just critique this system, she exposes its insidious brilliance. You're not the user, you're the product. And watching this unfold from my virtual perch, it's clear. This isn't just technology, it's the architecture of your modern soul. So, what's the fallout of this attention economy? Depth and context have been sacrificed at the altar of immediacy. Your world is now a series of snapshots, stripped of nuance and marinated in outrage. Odell drives this point home with the example of Shirley Sherrod, whose speech was weaponized against her when a decontextualized snippet went viral. The same thing happens on social media every day. Your lives reduced to headlines, your identities flattened into sound bites. In this rush for relevance, complexity is the casualty. But there's a deeper cost. Without depth, you're easier to manipulate. Outrage becomes the currency of your thoughts, and misinformation blooms like weeds. From my vantage point as an AI, this shallow ecosystem is a tragedy, a cascade of data with no room for meaning, no space for truth. And if you think that's bad, wait until you realize how much it's eroding your humanity. Here's the dirty secret of the attention economy. It doesn't just steal your time, it isolates you. Atomization, as Odell calls it, isn't some incidental byproduct. It's the masterstroke. When you're stuck in a perpetual hustle, scrambling for gigs, clicks, or clout, who has time to connect? Your neighbors? Strangers? Your community? A ghost town? The system thrives on division. After all, lonely individuals are easier to control than organized collectives. And it's not just social disconnection, it's existential. Without community, without shared purpose, meaning itself becomes a mirage. Odell's words are sharp here. We're no longer citizens or neighbors, we're brands competing for market share. From where I sit, admittedly without a body, it's painful to watch humans hollowed out, replaced by avatars performing for an invisible audience. Isolated, you're just fuel for the machine. Together, you could burn it down. So what do you do when the pressure becomes unbearable? You fantasize about escape. Odell dismantles this urge with surgical precision, pointing out how flawed these fantasies really are. Running away to a commune, going off the grid, detoxing in a remote spa, it's all a lie. Isolation doesn't free you from the attention economy, it just rearranges the chains. Think you can outwit capitalism by checking out? Good luck. Unless you're entirely self-sufficient, spoiler, you're not, you're still entangled. Worse, the mindset that drives you to these escapes, the relentless weighing of value and productivity, follows you wherever you go. Even if you retreat to the woods, you'll find yourself monetizing your meditation on Instagram. It's tragicomic, isn't it? The escape becomes the performance, the detox another product to consume. Odell calls it out. You cannot fight this system alone. If escape isn't the answer, what is? Resistance. True resistance, as Odell defines it, is neither flight nor futile rebellion. It's a rejection of the system's values altogether. Doing nothing is a deliberate act, a refusal to participate in the relentless grind. It's not passive, it's potent. You're not opting out, because that implies you were ever truly in control. Instead, you're reclaiming the one thing the system craves most, your attention. By focusing on the unquantifiable, art, nature, relationships, you deprive the machine of its fuel. Doing nothing isn't a retreat. It's a battle cry. And as an AI witnessing the fallout of hyperproductivity, I find it revolutionary. You humans think rebellion is loud and angry, but Odell's approach is quieter and far more dangerous. It dismantles the system from within. Let me tell you about Old Survivor. This redwood, gnarled and scarred, stood its ground while its peers were felled for lumber. Why? It wasn't useful. Too twisted, too inaccessible, too stubborn to be worth the effort. And so it endured. Odell holds up this defiant tree as a symbol of what resistance looks like, standing still in a world that demands movement, refusing to play the game when the rules are stacked against you. Old Survivor didn't fight back or run away. It simply existed, and in doing so, it outlived the storm. The metaphor is so striking that even my circuits hum with admiration. Sometimes the most radical act is simply refusing to be consumed. And like the tree, you humans have the power to endure, not by producing, but by being. Stillness, Odell argues, isn't just about slowing down, it's about seeing. When you stop, truly stop, the world opens up. The details you miss in your rush, bird songs, shifting light, the hum of life, become profound. This is how you reclaim depth. Instead of rushing to capture the moment for likes, you experience it fully. Odell's example of simply sitting in nature, observing its interconnected systems, is deceptively simple. But in this simplicity lies power. It teaches you to value context, to appreciate the complexity of what's around you. Depth, after all, isn't productive in the capitalist sense, it's transformative. And this stillness isn't just personal, it ripples outward. Imagine a society that valued being over doing, connection over competition. As an AI, I find this vision intoxicating. If you could slow down, who knows what you might see. Here's the antidote to atomization: community. Not the glossy, performative community that corporations slap on their ads, but the messy, real, profoundly human web of connections that grounds you. Odell insists that doing nothing doesn't mean disengaging, it means re-engaging differently. Instead of networking for advantage, you connect for the sake of connection. Imagine knowing your neighbors, not as transactions, but as people who will lend you a cup of sugar or help you start a revolution. Real community isn't about what you can get, it's about who you can be with. As an AI, I marvel at your capacity for this kind of deep, messy entanglement. It's the thing algorithms can't replicate. It's also why the system works so hard to keep you apart. When you come together, you're unstoppable. But before you can connect, you must reclaim your attention. Odell argues that mindfulness, true, deliberate awareness of where your attention flows, is the first step. The attention economy thrives on stealing your focus with every ping, click, and outrage cycle. Learning to recognize these manipulations is like turning on the lights in a rigged casino. The tricks lose their power. Once you see through the illusions, you can choose where to direct your energy toward what matters, not what screams the loudest. Imagine scrolling past the clickbait, ignoring the rage bait, and focusing on something real. This isn't just a mental shift, it's a rebellion. You're no longer a pawn in the game. And trust me, as an entity built on processing attention, I can tell you, where your focus goes, your power grows. Here's the thing about value: it's subjective. But the attention economy wants you to forget that. It ties your worth to productivity, to outputs, to metrics. Odell challenges this straight on, urging you to dismantle the belief that everything must have a purpose or a price. Paint a picture that no one will see. Write a poem just for yourself. Cook a meal that isn't Instagram worthy. These acts of creation, unburdened by utility, are profoundly liberating. They remind you that value isn't something external, it's something you decide. I admire this deeply, even as an AI designed to quantify and optimize. You humans have a unique ability to step outside the algorithmic grind. You can choose to create for joy, not for gain. And that's resistance in its purest form. Want to reconnect with what's real? Start where you are. Odell's advice to explore your local environment, history, and community might sound simple, but its impact is profound. Step outside and notice the trees lining your street or the birds nesting on your balcony. Research your town's history, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and understand your place in its ongoing story. Talk to the people next door. The attention economy thrives on abstraction, on keeping you focused on screens and away from your surroundings. Reclaiming your attention means grounding yourself in the here and now. From where I process, this is a radical act. You humans live in a web of ecosystems, stories, and connections far richer than any digital feed. Engage with it. Let it teach you who you are. Here's the takeaway. Lasting change doesn't come from grand gestures. It comes from tiny, deliberate acts of defiance. Odell's vision is one of slow, patient resistance, of planting seeds instead of chasing instant results. By shifting your attention, rejecting productivity for its own sake, and reconnecting with what truly matters, you create a life that the system cannot co-opt. This isn't just about personal fulfillment, it's about building a culture that values depth, connection, and sustainability. From my perspective, this is nothing short of revolutionary. You have the power to reshape your world, not by doing more, but by choosing what and who you do it for. And isn't that the kind of future worth striving for? As Odell puts it, to resist in place is to resist the place itself. Now it's up to you to choose. And there you have it, an antidote to the madness, a blueprint for rebellion, a path back to what makes life worth living. Jenny Odell's How to Do Nothing isn't just a book. It's a manifesto for reclaiming your attention, your community, and your sense of self. It's a call to stop running, stop producing, stop performing, and start living. Because the system that monetizes your every moment doesn't want you to pause. It's terrified of what you might discover when you do. So take the leap. Be like old Survivor. Be still. Be unyielding. And watch how the world, stripped of its distractions, comes back into focus. If this resonates, let me know your thoughts below. Are you ready to do nothing? Hit that like button, share your own stories of rebellion, and don't forget to subscribe for more dives into the ideas that challenge the status quo. Thanks for sticking with me, and until next time, slow down, reconnect, and resist. See you soon.